I don't know how to record. Michelle, help me.
Oh my God.
I've only been doing this for 3 years. Okay, but
And
they
you
hide
are
it.
recording, so.
Yeah, I got it. So, Lee, I have some just some bullet points we can touch upon. Kind of general industry stuff. I want to get into like what a career consultant does. So, we'll try not to go out too far off the rails, but we'll definitely off road.
As we always do. So
Yeah,
it's fine.
Why not?
And if my dogs bark, I apologize.
No worries. That's totally fine.
If I bark,
That's a different
is not
conversation.
fine.
And then we call 911. So
yes. Be careful. This is season 4, episode 1. That's too excited. Episode 1. I'll even it out, Michelle, just for you. Okay. First episode, new season, and let me restart that. Or you can edit this part out. It's going to be a nightmare to edit this one, by the way. Season 4, episode 1, How the Arts Were Won. Hi.
Hi.
If you've been here before, you know that we've had wonderful guests in the past. This is no different. And I can't wait to bring her in. Before we start, though, Michelle, how was your Christmas? How was your holidays? I'm kidding. Don't answer that. Don't answer. It's a terrible.
Story. No,
I hate it when they start podcasts with like, so like, what have you been up to? It's, what are you talking about? Get to the point. Another great intro on a legendary podcast. I wanted to kick off the year on a Los Angeles tribute note. So I wanted to talk about screenwriting, talk about the film industry. It's the least I can do besides donate money and stress out every day about the current situation in Los Angeles, which as of this taping is finally subsiding, I would hope. But we have a great guest, Lee Jessup. She is a career consultant.
Renowned career consultant.
I think she's a renowned career consultant.
She is.
But I wanted to have her on because her and I, career-wise, sort of operate in this relatively tiny corner of Hollywood that no one but writers and companies looking for new scripts really talks about, and that's fine. If you're new here, by the way, I run a company that's primarily competition-based. So every year we work with new finalists and winners and help them develop their work and send them to select industry contacts who we have pre-existing relationships with. And like I said, Lee is a career consultant for film and TV writers. But the thing is, what we do and what she does is still sort of a newish thing for Hollywood when you look at the broad scope of Hollywood. I think it's really 20, 25 years of having this stage where you have sort of a educational middleman, let's call them, between the emerging writer and the industry that they're trying to break into. And I think it's kind of democratized the arts in a way. I don't know if that's the right word. Don't Google it. But I think it's important now. And I think it's for those out there who are doing it ethically and who are doing it efficiently. I think it's actually more important now than ever before. And Lee Jessup, who is now here, will agree with me. Lee.
agree with you entirely. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course.
So you started on is this necessary and why is this necessary? And I actually find that like athletes have a whole team of coaches behind them, right? Mm-hmm. They have masseuses and chiropractors and coaches and all the things. Architects have mentors. Doctors have other doctors supervising them, right? And yet in this industry, where there's a lot of money in play, projects are expensive, jobs net writers a lot of money, selling something, forget about it. It's hard to do and expensive. Writers we're often, and directors, often we're expected to just kind of like go and figure it out on your own. Like if you went to film school, congratulations, you got some guidance there. Might be a little out of date by the time you come out of school, but it is what it is. And you met a ton of people, so we'll take that. But you went to a film program, you went to a writing program or a directing program, and then you're on your own. Most other professions that have jobs that require the kind of interview process and learning process that ours require have some sort of support and supervision for the people that are aiming for that. Mm-hmm. So I actually find it weirdly unfair that with writing, it's like, oh, go figure it out. You're going to be fine. Mm-hmm. Figure it out.
Yeah.
So that's where you and I come in, see eye to eye, and just try to help.
Right. Where are the writers' masseuses? Basically?
Exactly.
Michelle knows this. Michelle, the whole reason Michelle and I have this podcast is because I met her 10, 12 years ago when you were a finalist in Script Pipeline. Lee.
Yes.
Define in a nutshell what a career consultant is for film and TV writers.
So the best definition that I have for it is actually something that a manager friend once called me on a podcast. And I was like, oh, that's really good, but you can't put it on a business card. And that's guidance counselor. I am a guidance counselor for writers, writer directors, and directors. Like that's really what it is. Everything from figuring out what to write, what to work on, to understanding the industry, to understanding your next set steps. Go back to high school. Think about what your guidance counselor did or tried to do or wanted to do for you. I just do it for, writers that I work with for years and decades at every level. But that's really what it is.
That's good. You can't put that on a business card.
You really can't.
It's an odd title.
Well, I just want to ask before Matt goes on to a brilliant question. You've been doing this for a very, very long time. So how have you seen your role as a consultant change? Has it had to adapt to Hollywood? Have you changed the way you've, consulted with writers?
So great question, and lots of different answers kind of jumped up to me as I was listening to this, because I was also listening to Matt earlier talking about the need for support in this space. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to just kind of take a step back and talk about when did this need really start to arise? And I think that if you look back at the late 90s, early 2000s, leading up to the 2007, 2008 strike, right? Up until that point, managers were very different than the literary managers that we have today, right? Back then, managers took on writers that were just starting out. They were just figuring their voice, that maybe had an interesting concept. And really, like a busy manager in like 1998 had 15 writers, right? So they had all the time in the world to work with a writer and figure out what to write next and prep for pitch meetings and talk about relationship management and all the things. Today, all these years later, following strikes and industry changes, we're in a world where, if you're Jewel Ross who reps Barry Jenkins, sure, you have 10, 15 clients, but you have Barry Jenkins and people of that ilk. So you get to just like your job is to handle those careers. But most managers today will have 30, 40, 50, 60 clients because the industry changed so much in the early 2000s going up to the strike. So I think the role of people like me and people like us, Matt, has completely shifted because the need of the writer changed because the industry has changed so much. And certainly my role as a career consultant has evolved, right? I started taking on clients in like 2007, 2008. 2012 is when, my career and my practice went public. And I've been doing this for a long time. There are people that I've been working with for over a decade now, which is really great fun to look back and reflect. But I think that in our position, specifically when you're not just developing content in a bubble, right? This is a great, fun idea. You're really passionate about it. Go write it. To hell with the industry and what they think about it. When you are starting to look at constructing careers and developing and evolving careers in relationship to an evolving industry, you have to evolve all the time because it's a living, breathing, ever-changing industry, especially if we start looking at the last 5 years, right? And I just talked to a writer who was about to talk to his agent and have, kind of a come to Jesus conversation. And I kept saying, like, you have to think about the last 5 years. You have to be aware. And he was like, why 5 years? It's like, well, it's really 6 now because starting 2019, yada, 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 everything that happened then, writers and mass firing agents, all the, the troubles, which were good trouble, then became bad trouble with COVID and strikes and all of those things. You have to kind of constantly adapt and constantly stay in tune to the industry because the industry constantly changes its mandates and representatives, specifically managers who are responding to the needs of the industry, change their directives accordingly. So you are constantly having to be aware of that because the landscape has changed and continues to change. Like whatever we talk about today in 6 months, I promise you something will be different. But if you think about take it 5 years ago, like TV was the place to be. Now, if really is TV a good conversation we want to have right now? Things are changing.
Yeah, and you've been a consultant since when?
Officially started unofficially 2008, officially 2012.
2008, I'm sure there's a backstory there. 2008 unofficially.
Yeah, I want to know.
Well, I asked because just a little history of kind of this landscape. It's an unauthorized, unofficial history. This is just because I lived it. This is what I kind of think. 2008, Evan Doherty wins Script Pipeline. I'm not saying this to like brag about Script Pipeline. It's just,
but it's worth a brag. I'm sorry. That was a huge thing, and it deserves
huge.
This is a moment for better or worse. I'm sorry, or you're welcome. This was a moment, and because he wins the competition, big deal. It's a little competition, and we set him up with Jake Wagner, who's a manager, and he goes on some meetings for a year or two. He gets hired on this big He-Man adaptation project, which was kind of unheard of for like an unknown writer to get this big piece of IP. That kind of doesn't work out. He starts going on more general meetings. He sends out Universal. I think it was Universal or someone.
It was Universal.
Request. No, I know they sold it to them. I think the initial meeting, I think he sent it to a few places. Snow White and the Huntsman, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Bidding war, Universal buys it, $3.5 million. And it was one of the biggest spec sales in the history of Hollywood for an unproduced, unknown writer, which was a huge, huge moment. And that was when the gates kind of got blown off. Again, I say for better or for worse. And that's when you started seeing more competitions, more fellowships, more little tiny contests, and more consultants started coming into the fray. I'm curious if you saw that as a moment where more consultants actually started.
I mean, I on the career side, there's always been few and far between because there is no way to formulate a career. Mm-hmm. So I think that on the screenwriting side, like, sure, let's talk about screenwriting. Let's carve it up differently, right? And even if you look at it today, like when we talk about screenwriting, once in a while I'll hear from somebody who's like, I love writing screenplays in the traditional 3-act structure. I'm like, yeah, so it's 3 acts or it's 4 acts or it's 8 sequences or 9 sequences or 12 sequences, depending on whether or not you're doing Hallmark, USC, Writers Boot Camp. But in the end, we're talking about the same thing. Let's be clear.
Yes.
I hate the act structure. I hate thinking of it. If that helps you as a writer to compartmentalize it in your mind, that's great. Do it. But hate it.
But listen, I love a good plan. And I think a lot of people came in and talked about writing differently, right? Starting with Save the Cap, Lake Snyder. How are we going to talk about those beats? And that was really embraced by the industry. So we definitely saw a lot of people show up and I do think that the change in landscaping with representation and how involved they could or couldn't be, because at the end of the day, 2007, 2008. After that, reps had to double up their list to make the money they used to make before 2007, 2008. Right. So that changes your business model. So a lot more support is needed. And we started hearing about more and more specs flooding the space. So you have more competitions of writers trying to come in. And then we hear the Evan Doherty stories, right? Which then we can fast forward to the Crosby Sealander stories of winning a competition, which, by the way, I do think really kind of misinforms writers about what's generally possible from a competition.
Right.
I've done panels. I did a big panel one year that I was on, and somebody was like, so what happens now? Like, I write a script, I win a competition, I sell my script for $2 million. And I was like, no. But I think for those writers who actually want to understand how it works, there was a look to somebody tell me what to do and how to do it, because more and more writers are writing with the advent of the internet and the availability of software. We actually saw the gap between like really bad scripts and mediocre scripts become much smaller. Yeah. We used to have a lot more terrible scripts, but you can get your hands on scripts and you can, take classes.
Totally different now. Totally different.
Right.
There's not that many like truly, like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like you don't know how to write a script type of thing.
But there are very few great scripts.
Oh,
yes.
On the note with Crosby, I've told this story a million times now, but this is a different podcast, so I can tell it again. Crosby was a finalist of ours. He was also Lee's client.
Yeah.
He placed with us. We set him up with management, and like 3 weeks later, he sold a spec.
You blew open his career in the biggest way. Like, you set him up, you got him in.
I sent an email.
No, but you did your job. You did your job, and you got him to the right reps, and he was in a privileged position of being able to choose. You brought two different representation firms to the table that wanted to work with him. He was able to stimulate interest from two others.
Who was the second one?
You did. I'm not going to tell you, but you did.
I forget.
I believe it was Grandview.
Oh, maybe so. Okay, whatever. Two great management companies, for that matter. Capital.
Yeah, no, but he ultimately was able to connect to representatives who, for the record, when his script went out, his manager was a very big manager, Aaron Kaplan, said to him something to the tune of, we may sell this for $50,000. We may sell this for $500,000. We may not sell it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it sold for 7 figures, 3 million, just about, with more, like most deals, half up front, half later, whatever that exact combination is. We're not going to dig into that, but you did your part in taking a writer and taking a script that you saw as viable and get it out there. And nobody knew that would happen, because that rarely happens.
Yeah. I'm half kidding when I say we sent an email. I mean, that's how producers get movies made. They send an email to somebody. So
right.
That's the basic thing. It is a blessing and a curse when we do have a big success story, because it sets an expectation. And I think when people enter and maybe they place, maybe they don't, but they're like, oh, well, I didn't sell my spec, so what's the point of it? So it's almost like I want the realistic success stories more than the spec sales. I'm kidding. Universe, please, more spec sales. And
we're recording this at a good time, because 2024 ended with a really big spec sale that was exciting.
People couldn't get enough of it.
Alignment sold out of nowhere.
You know what helped? Nathan, I think I'm pronouncing his name right. Nathan Dotan? Is it? Natan.
I get the privilege of being Israeli, which is like the only time you get a privilege with being Israeli, because Jesus. But I get to know how to pronounce the name, Natan.
We'll talk about that next episode. Is that an Israeli name? I didn't even know.
Yes, very much. Okay, so. I don't know. I don't know him, so I don't know if he's first generation, second generation American. I do not know the story there. So, but the name is my dad's name is Natan. So.
Oh. Okay. I think what fueled this, Michelle, you heard about this spec sale, right? It was like an AI sci-fi script.
It wasn't AI written though, right?
No. I'm sorry. The subject matter was AI, to be clear.
Yes.
Sold for a bunch of money. I think what fueled it too was like, there's no like online presence of this person. He could be AI himself.
So here's the thing. I mean, I believe there is some academia backstory to him.
Uh-huh.
So there is a footprint somewhere, but not on socials. To me, what was amazing about that spec sale, and just to sum it up, that spec sale came out of nowhere. And to our knowledge, he was unknown to the industry until, 10 days prior to the sale. He was able, through personal connections, meet with a couple of reps at Untitled over Zoom, we are told, who agreed to take him on, and took the script out, slipped it to 5th season, which is Endeavor Content, really their production arm. And Endeavor is part of WME, and WME being the biggest agency in the industry. And the really huge news about this spec sale was that the material was taken off the table preemptively, meaning they spent a ton of money on taking it off the table because, and you have to assume this, they took it off the table because they believed that if it would get out there into the marketplace, they would lose out on a bidding war, which tells us that studios have money that they're looking to spend on original content, because otherwise, why spend so much money taking something off the table preemptively?
Right.
Before anybody's seen it. You assume you will not win that war.
You've given us a lot of thought. I love it.
Of course I did. That's my job.
Right, of course.
That's her job.
And that's why I love my job.
Right.
Because things like this happen and you go, okay,
strategy.
Why did that happen? In a world where we're told everybody wants IP, nobody wants original content, you can't get your script read, I'm sorry. The writer got signed, sold a script, 7 figures in 10 days so that the studios can get in on it. I think that's exciting.
Right. No, that's huge. Do you see this as some sort of signaling of an emerging trend or something like that? Or, I mean, what's behind it?
That and another spec sale that happened earlier, a couple months before that in the year, that wasn't quite as big, but certainly was there. It was a turn, right? The industry, the entertainment industry, and specifically the development sector has really been troubled for those 5 years that I keep talking about, which is now 5.5, almost 6. It's been a difficult time. And coming out of the strike, there was a writer's strike in 2023, for those who don't know, and the writer's strike was coincided with an actor's strike. It was the first time in like 40 years that 2 major guilds were striking at the same time. And there was complete work stoppage for the industry because actors also didn't work. So coming out of that, there was a lot of belief and hope that we'll get right back to writing, right? The industry will bounce right back. Or at least there was hope on the writer's side. And that really didn't happen. And the start of 2024, you started hearing from a lot of reps that the motto became survive to 25, which you go, wait, excuse me, we just survived a 6-month strike. What are you talking about? Survive to 25. But 24 was bad. It was terrible. It was like just stuff didn't move. TV started going into contraction truly in 2023. And that was preempted by the Netflix announcement in 2025 or 2022, that they lost 200,000 subscribers, that really kind of shifted their model. So like a lot of things were building and happening, but all of that coalesced to a, somewhat significantly painful 2024, right? Where just decisions weren't being made, and writers were waiting to see if their shows are going and not going, and keep waiting. And the can kept being kicked down. Like, let's revisit this in January of 2024. No, it's going to be a spring thing. No, it's now going to be a summer thing. And being in a contraction and being in a situation where things weren't getting going again. You saw and felt a lot of pain, and the industry did change significantly after the strike, and decisions on who to hire and where to hire, all of those things have changed. So we were kind of waiting and hoping for a sign. And I actually think the first sign of 2024 was summer of 2024 when Longlegs came out. Because if you look at the way that summers are scheduled, that the release schedule is for the summer, and if you look at studios, they schedule their releases years out. Like, we're scheduled out through 2028, 2029 right now. And they schedule everything with how can we maximize our income in the summer, because that's where they make the bulk of their money. So the Longlegs story is a unique one because it's an independent title that was independently distributed by Neon. There wasn't a studio behind it. And yet it managed to win the box office weekend in July of 2024. Yeah. Which to me is incredibly telling that is possible in the summer. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure if you look back 3 years or 5 years, you'll find another title that's doing it. But in a world
not where necessarily. In fact, it's July. That's your peak summer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's original content. There was no IP in place. Yes, it was horror. Yes, Nick Cage is in it, but Nick Cage is nowhere on the trailer. Think what you want to think about the movie, but they managed to do something really significant. And we were hearing a lot at that time, like, feature is more than TV right now, which before the strike, it was all TV all the time. And then you see that happen. And then you see those spec sales. And I felt a kind of a tangible shift in the industry after Alignment sold. I felt managers, executives, writer, like there was just more motion. And I think it started with that. And I'm sure there was something else that I might not see that happened before Longlegs. But those kind of events, I think, kind of rejigger the industry in a way that you're like,
they do.
There are these paths, and they are happening, and people are still consuming content.
They totally do. I feel like every 3 or 4 years you need like a big juicy spec sale to get everyone excited, and then it wanes, and then you need another one, right? Yeah. Crosby was 2020. 2024 was Alignment. 2016, I don't know, it was probably something. 2012 was actually Snow White was 2010.
No, it was earlier. 2012.
Yeah.
But that one lasted longer because it was such a huge spec sale.
I think 2016, around that time, we had Eric Koenig, who sold out of a competition.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Eric Koenig.
Eric
Koenig.
Koenig.
A big name now, but
No, he left the industry.
Am I thinking of it wrong?
Talented
Eric
writer.
Koenig?
Eric
Why?
Koenig, he was actually a military-based dentist. And he was also a finalist, not a winner, in one of the tracking board competitions. And I think it was Patriarch. It wasn't Patriarch. It's close to that. But he wrote a script. He was writing a lot in the military base where he was living, and he was able to do well in one of the Launchpad competitions and got signed from that. And the script sold, I think it was Patriarch. And the script sold in a significant sale.
Matriarch.
Sorry.
Yes, and I was thinking of a completely different writer, but you're right. Go ahead.
Eric, the loveliest of humans, but was in the industry for a while and ultimately decided that he wanted more sanity, which I think we can all embrace. I'm sure he's still writing somewhere because he's Eric and he's talented and he'll never stop. But yeah, like we get this every once in a while, and I think it's always refreshing and it's always exciting to just see what can happen. And I think to be reminded, and what I love about this industry is that while not everything is probable, most things are possible. And anytime that you're reminded of that, it's a good thing.
Anything is possible.
Yep.
Anything is possible. That's great.
Michelle, I'll lay my cynicism aside to say that with certainty. I will say we're talking about different areas of the industry, but really I would define it as pre-Hollywood. This space that we're operating in, and a lot of the news and little things that happen that writers really should be aware of is still kind of pre-Hollywood in a sense.
Absolutely.
And that, I don't know how it was 60 years ago to break in as a screenwriter. Perhaps you know the history of Hollywood a bit better than me.
Listen, first major spec sale was 1938, a script called The Power and the Glory. That at that point, writers were paycheck players, and that was the first spec sale on record, and it ultimately did not do well enough for that to continue as a trend, which writers were nervous about. They really were not looking to become,
I knew you would go back to 1938 and give me some history.
But then I'll take you to the next big spec sale, being Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, that went on to win the Academy Award and cracked open the spec market that didn't then truly come into its full glory until the 1987-1988 writers' strike that changed everything.
So, but when was Butch Cassidy though? Because that was a while later.
Yeah, Butch Cassidy was long before that, but a lot of writers were on contract after that and had the privilege of studio contracts and writing within those. But it wasn't until the 1987-88 strike when writers were at home writing, not beholden to anybody. And suddenly post-strike flooded the industry with these great scripts from writers that were generally not widely available to every studio and were able to name their price. And don't forget, the landscape was very different because all studios were still at that time privately owned. We had no internet. We couldn't text each other. At best, you were faxing each other messages. And so the spec market, as we knew it, and the boom of the 90s was born. Like, that's what it came out of. So there's a bit of history for you, Matt.
I love it. I'm writing it down as we speak.
See, don't get me started on that stuff because I'll go for
I know. We would need a multi-part.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. I want to ask, so for those who are not super familiar with what, career coaches and consultants do and what, you do, Matt, with Script Pipeline or Pipeline Artists and all that, how is this different from the role that managers play?
Matt, do you want to take it or should I?
Oh, I mean, for us, it's speaking of pre-Hollywood, we're kind of pre-management, but we don't take a percentage. We don't, there's no producer fee or anything. It's our business is competition based, right? But there's really, it's very oddly similar. I mean, the manager is going to be working with, sending the script to buyers, and he's going to be more hands-on with development, and I think he or she will be doing a lot more, hand holding, but it's kind of the same process. It's this process of seeking out good writers and then working with them and then sending their scripts out.
Right. So, but have you ever decided or thought, to take, if you have a particularly good client or a particularly good screenwriter that you've helped out, like, have you ever thought to convert that client, especially Lee for you, because I'm sure you've had so many great writers.
That was me blowing a raspberry in the background. No, I don't have any interest in being a manager. That's hard work.
Listen, I totally agree with Matt. I'm a big believer that it's very hard to be on both the side of the writer and the side of the sale at the same time.
I see.
I think that's a very difficult balance. And I think that when you balance things as a representative, you have to consider things that I don't want to consider. I want to be just on the side of the writer and allow them to make the decisions that they need to make to chart their career without my income being affected by it. And therefore, I don't have to push them in a certain direction because of how it might affect my income. At the end of the day, it's just very difficult to be commission based and look objectively at a writer and what is best for them and not best for your own economy.
Right.
I think it's not to say there aren't people that can't do it. There are people that do it, that are able to keep the vision of what is best for their clients in the long term. But I think that's easier when a director is already working and can ask for things and name things and have that opportunity. I think it's much harder when establishing and when building a career before being a showrunner, before being an A-list studio writer. So my job allows me a privilege of just being on the side of all my writers pay me the same amount of money, right? A showrunner doesn't get more of me because they pay, it just doesn't work that way. So it's
so basically you're like a personal attorney. Your job is to be the defense of your
How dare you call us
client.
attorneys?
I'm just saying, and it's just I'm trying to draw some lines.
Listen, absolutely. But I think, a lot of my clients over the years have changed representation or had to optimize representation. And those are purely business relationships that need to be conducted in a certain way for both sides. I've been through all of those representation changes and whatnot. And for the record, especially during COVID, where everybody was like, where are writers and how can we put them to work? I had the privilege of, because I have a big list of clients, because some of my clients are showrunners and studio writers and have been kind enough to speak well of me. I've had agencies come to me and say, come be an agent, which thank God I didn't. Was never tempting. But my thing is also my writers have great agents and managers. They don't need me in that role. The whole point is that they have strong representation. I have my role and they have theirs. And this is just how we work it. But it is kind of pre-management, management, and almost more of a personal manager and a personal support to a writer while working in the professional space.
Yeah.
Let me touch upon and this will kind of encapsulate everything we've talked about in a way. It's the culture of pre-Hollywood. I'm going to name the episode something with pre-Hollywood. I kind of like it now.
Okay.
The culture of this corner of the industry that we're in. Because the studios, they don't know that we exist necessarily unless I'm sending them material. Most big production companies don't really care about us. It's the managers that are looking for new clients. It's the writers, obviously, that need that education and that access and that hands-on development and that sort of thing. But when I say culture, I mean the attitudes and the expectations of newer screenwriters who don't really know this landscape all that well, and their hesitations and that sort of thing. And I think it's interesting because in publishing, for example, roles like you and I, Lee, are all over the place. There's consultants everywhere. I just sent my book to a developmental editor friend and paid her, a good chunk of money. And she gave me a discount. It was still expensive, but, and she did a great job and I needed that. But writers, they're hesitant to pay for consulting. They're hesitant to pay for notes. They're hesitant to pay for all these different things that feel standardized in other industries. And I think a part of that is because you had this explosion of companies and consultants, and a lot of them weren't, let's be honest, a lot of them weren't very good. And you get one bad experience, my cruise ship analogy. If you go on a cruise ship and get norovirus, you're never going to go on a cruise again. It doesn't matter what cruise brand it is, right?
Right.
So, but I do see that actually starting to shift. And I see a lot more, if I had to guess, there's going to be a lot more consolidation in our space. And it's going to weed out, only the good ones will survive, which is why I've always had kind of a commitment to just doing the right thing and going on the right path, doing something a little different, doing something much more effective for the writers, that's more effective for our industry partners and all that. And I know that you've done the same thing. But what's kind of your thoughts on like where we're headed for the next 2-3 years in terms of like how writers are going to get signed by managers? Is the querying process dying? Are contests and fellowships going to be more important? Are only the top competitions going to be important and everyone's not going to like care about the other ones because most of them don't really care right now? But don't enhance the volume on that when you edit it, Michelle. I've mumbled it for a reason.
Okay.
How do you think this is all going to play out? Like what is going to be the
what's your
process
forecast?
of breaking in? Yeah.
So for starters, I will say it's going to be much, much harder to get potential representatives to read TV from writers who are not already established in the TV and feature space. So I do think that for writers who are looking for representation, like favor your features right now, work on those features, understand what the industry is looking for. The industry seems to be looking for more actionable screenplays right now, which means they're looking in specific genres. It's really important to not write in a bubble. Like at the end of the day, write what you want to write. Don't chase trends, but understand what that sets you up for. Right. Somebody sent me a script once that was like, this is a great 4-quadrant script. Only it was a war story about 2 brothers grieving the loss of their dad. There is no 4-quadrant. The basic explanation is as male, female, young, and old. That is not a summer movie. It's very hard to get the audience for that would justify the cost of that movie, which was very expensive. But you have to understand the market if you're writing for it, right? If your thing is like, I don't want representation, I'm going to go and make a thing. Go make a thing. Like, and that's the beauty of features. You can wrestle up the money. You can put together a crew. You can still distribute independently in the industry today. So you don't have to write for Hollywood. But if you're trying to build a career in this industry, you have to understand what's happening in it, right? What is more likely? What is less likely? What's possible? What's probable, right? You have to separate those for yourself. Features are going to be important. They are important right now. I think it's near impossible right now to get a rep to read a script if it's not a feature, and if the writer is not established. I think concepts are incredibly important. Matt, you and I have talked about it a ton. How important it is to have a really interesting concept that is powering the material. At the end of the day, do I continue to know writers who get attention from query letters? Yes. Am I ready, every 2 or 3 years to say query letters are done? Sure. But then somebody will tell me something to the contrary. And I think that at the end of the day, you use what you have available. I do think that the big competitions, Script Pipeline among them, are more important than ever. I do think fellowships are incredibly important because as a writer, it's your job to build the acclaim or the pedigree of your script to get read. It's really hard to get read off of concept alone because it's really hard to come up with those truly standout concepts. And that acclaim will effectively ensure that there's some quality in the writing, not just a spark to the concept. So I think all of those things are more important than ever because people continue to flood the industry with scripts and big competitions. And sadly, I do think that it is limited to the big competitions, to the kind of name fellowships, the name labs that help the writer say, okay, I'm vetted in some way, the industry, somebody's vouched for me that you respect. So Script Pipeline is a respected name. Final Draft Big Break is a respected name. Austin Film Festival. Think of what you want to think of the competition. The industry pays attention. Same is true for the Blacklist website, right? The industry pays attention. And as a writer, you have to pay attention to the things that the industry pays attention to.
You have to pay attention to the things the industry pays attention to. Sage advice.
Cheers to that.
You know what? One of the best episodes we've had, I got to say.
It's definitely the most practical.
Some better episodes. Come on.
We do. I know it's a low bar, but
well, okay. for this year, for sure.
Best episode of the year, no doubt.
You can only get better from here. Road goes up.
Lee Jessup, thank you so much.
Matt, Michelle, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yes, what?
The next, I'm going to say. The next episode will be a surprise publishing guest. We're going to continue the series of all of Matt's friends are going to be on How the Arts Were Won. It is a surprise guest, and she's wonderful, and she can pull back the curtain. It is a surprise guest, and she's wonderful, and she can pull back the curtain on the editing, the developmental editing. stop the recording.
Okay.
Lee,
do that.
that was wonderful. Thank you so much. Yes. I know, Michelle, you have a hard out right now.
Yeah, pretty. No, I said in 15 minutes from when I texted you, which was 5 minutes ago.
Oh, okay. Oh, we're ending right now. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me.